Hey, good afternoon you wee bastards, and welcome back, finally, to another War Thunder video with Koala. That's right, I've gotten the new PC gear all sorted, everything's installed and running properly now, so I can finally get back on schedule for content. Anyway, today's video is gonna be, a tasty dish of controversy. So get out your salt shakers, leave a big fat dislike, and start typing in those hate comments. Go on, it'll make you feel better. It's time to talk about the XM-1. In War Thunder's update 1.79, Gaijin went and did something quite bad. They added into the game a top tier premium. This was something the devs always said no to in the past. You can't have brand new players joining the game at top tier. They're going to get stomped by players who've been playing for years and they don't have the skills and experience required to make a top tier vehicle work for them. But in update 1.77, Gaijin had added 3rd generation main battle tanks like the M1 Abrams in Challenger 1 into the game at top tier, and all of a sudden a flood of new players arrive. I wonder why. Probably because they're interested in modern main battle tanks and that era of combat. Now, not only will these players be somewhat miffed by the early 1950s jets they have to use to support these vehicles, yes, I'm still going on about that, but they'll also be facing an enormous grind through vehicles that they might not care much for. Interwar and World War II vehicles, earlier generation MBTs. Players who might have come for the Leopard 2 and Abrams gameplay are just going to be a tad turned off by that. But now, you don't have to worry. That's right, as of update 1.79, as a brand new War Thunder player with a level 1 account, you too can just shell out half your life savings, at now $60 US, and bang, you're at top tier with the XM-1. Oh, sorry, not top tier, it's a rank 5. Battle rating 9.0. Yep, one whole entire BR down from the top tier tanks, which it still fights every game. Well done, Gaijin. Really, well done. Oh boy. Now, if you're someone anxious to skip your American grind, you might not be so annoyed at the XM1's addition just yet. But let me clarify something for you. The XM1 has destroyed American top tier teams, killed them, dead. As an American top tier player who grinded their way there, yeah, I feel like I kinda wasted my time. The gameplay is just gone. It's absolutely tragic just how quickly American top tier tank teams are getting ruffle stomped. And while that status may have calmed down a little since the patch first dropped, it's still a huge problem. Unless you're a Leopard player, in which case I assume you're loving it. Now, there have been a ton of videos talking about how and why the XM1 and the addition of top tier premiums is bad for the game, which I'm sure most of you guys can work out. Bottom line, your team is full of inexperienced players in a game that requires teamwork, and therefore your win rate in, say, an MBT 70 is going to drop to pretty much zero. Is that because the XM1 is a bad tank, as so many people on War Thunder forums, YouTube comment sections, and Reddit might tell you? Yeah, the answer to that one should be obvious. No, the XM1 is definitely a capable 9.0 vehicle. Gets harsh up tiers to 10.0 99% of the time, but hey, welcome to 8.0 starter jets, I suppose. Yeah, I'm looking at you, 163, F2H and LA15. The problem with its lack of success comes from players not understanding the gameplay of top tier, not reacting properly, not controlling the map, pushing the right spots at the right times. Someone who's used to playing M4 Shermans against Panzer IVs is not going to be capable of fighting back against highly mobile Leopard 2s. That means that the experienced players who had the misfortune of being on that team have a hard time picking up the slack against superior tanks like the Leopard 2A4 and Type 90, when they also have superior numbers of those tanks thanks to all the XM1s on their team whose only backup was an M24 Chaffee, and that's if they managed to get the spawn points to bring it out. But we're not just here to report on an issue that's been here for several weeks. No, we're here to talk about how to fix it. Now, if you couldn't tell already, I personally was completely against top tier premiums being added, and I'd love to see Gaijin just remove the tanks from the store, refund the people who bought them, and take them out of the game. Or add them into the research tree. Boom, problem solved. However, having just released War Thunder to the Xbox market, this would be an extremely poor look for Gaijin. Definitely not the first impression they want, and even if they hadn't just gone through the Xbone release, it'd still be a messy situation for them, and something I can almost guarantee you they will not do, despite it possibly being the best move for the continued health of the game. So what about other ways of fixing the issue? People have talked about locking the ability to buy premiums of too high a rank. For example, you should need to have at least one rank 2 vehicle before being able to buy rank 3 premiums, one rank 3 vehicle in order to unlock rank 4 premiums, so on and so on, you get the picture. This is a decent workaround. You move the XM-1 up to tier 6 where it should be, it's a damn 9.0 for crying out loud, and you can legitimately sell premiums of all ranks without allowing complete noobs access to higher tiers. But if Gaijin were to do that, then they'd lose the whole point of the XM1, which is to offer new players only interested in modern MBT combat an easy way to skip straight to it. You also kind of defeat the purpose of having premiums at all if you have to grind to unlock them anyway. Might as well just put them in the research tree and then people have to spend more money on gold to grind because the tech trees are longer. Profits! So that's no good either. You also can't buff the tank or lower its battle rating unfairly because then the experienced players who bought it would club in it. And you can't introduce a ranked matchmaker to separate noobs from experienced players because then the XM1 players would be the only ones at that tier and just have 100% mixed battles of XM1s versus XM1s. While highly experienced players would never get any games if they decided to go back to tier 1 for a bit of a break. So we have to find a different angle, a less conventional way of fixing this issue, and I think I've got one. Here's where the controversy and hate comes in. See, the biggest issue with the XM1 currently is that it's the only way for new players to experience top tier. It's the only tank of its kind, or in other words, the noobs are limited to just the American team, meaning that the experienced American top tier players have no reliable backup, and whatever nations are facing them have an easy time curb stomping every match. So our options are either remove those noobs from the American team, which we've already said we can't do, or the alternative is to add them to every nation, every team. That's right, the way to fix the issues that this new top tier premium has caused is to add more of them, to add more top tier 9.0 premiums. Now, before you go throwing around hate comments, I'm not saying that I particularly like this idea. It's certainly not an ideal situation no matter which way you slice it, but like I said, I'd personally love to just see the XM1 removed completely, and that's not going to happen. Gaijin's not going to do that. We're stuck with this situation now, so let's work with what we have. Adding top tier premiums, and by extension new and inexperienced players, to every team at top tier would balance things out significantly. See, right now a team of 12, let's say, Americans and British, can fight against a team of 12 Germans and Japanese. But individual vehicle performance aside, the match still isn't balanced, because as many as half of the players on one team will get raffle stomped early on, leaving the Germans and Japanese with a 2-to-1 advantage, which the opposing team will almost never come back from. If you add inexperienced players to the German team too, then that team receives the same disadvantage, and while top tier gameplay becomes even more full of noobs, which isn't the greatest thing in the world, it does balance out the teams. The inexperienced players will likely get picked off early just as they do now, but that will still leave even numbers on both teams after it happens. It also gives the XM1 players without the skills to face Leopard 2s and Type 90s something more at their skill level to fight against, because there'll be noobs on the enemy team too, making the tanks more worth buying, and it will reduce match queue times at top tier. Gaijin is happy, of course, because they get to sell hundreds, if not thousands more $60 bundle packs, and they get to bring in scores of players only interested in modern tank combat, players who won't have to grind through dozens of older vehicles to get to the ones that they're interested in playing. See, Gaijin wants to have it both ways. They want a game that encompasses the oldest of interwar vehicles all the way to the modern tanks we're starting to see released every patch, still waiting on that T80 Gaijin. They want to have players grind through tech trees, getting closer and closer to the top, but they still want modern MBT enthusiasts to want to begin playing their game. With a relatively large demographic of potential players who might want an alternative to, say, Armoured Warfare, would enjoy tier 6 MBTs, and don't really have much of a competitor to go to besides War Thunder, the addition of more top tier premiums for other nations would open up the game to many more prospective players, which in and of itself can only be a good thing. It's definitely something Gaijin should consider, as the XM1 issue needs addressing, and like we've already said, they're not going to remove the vehicle. It would also allow those modern MBT players to join the game with a nation other than America. I know a ton of people who'd enjoy War Thunder if they could download the game and immediately jump into a T72. Once again, it's not great to have tons of noobs in top tier thanks to premiums at all. I'm not saying that it is, but having them around for all nations is far better than having them for only one, trust me. It'll be worse than if the XM1 were never added, don't get me wrong, but it's just a little late for that now. So it's fix the issue or ignore it, and I haven't given up on War Thunder's top tier just yet. There are so many options for tanks that could fill these roles, but this video has gone on long enough already, so I'm going to make a separate video talking specifically about potential 9.0 premiums, which should be out a little after this one. Go check it out, there'll be an annotation on screen, link in the description, you guys know the drill. Some of these tanks you might know of already, like the Leopard 2 AV, and some of which you might never have heard of. Yeah. Number 8 will surprise you. Ooh. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts on the whole idea of balancing out the XM-1 by adding more top tier premiums to counter it in the comment section below, as well as any more ideas you might have in regards to how to fix the issues the XM-1 brings to the table that I might have missed here. Just one more point before I finish. Now with 9.0 premiums in the game, can we please raise the Object 120 up to at least 8.0 where it doesn't fight King Tigers? Come on, Gaijin. Also, premium jets, when? Wait, that was 2 points. Anyway, please leave a like if you enjoyed, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, come follow me at all the links in the description below, and always remember, keep your bagpipes to hand, your kilt on, and I will see all of you lads in the next one.